You don't manage money, you manage threat.
Most of what you call a financial decision is your nervous system negotiating with a ghost, an ancient fear dressed up as a spreadsheet. You think you're choosing assets, but your brain is choosing safety, status, control, identity, in that order. And the uncomfortable part is this. The version of you making those choices isn't the rational one you identify with. It's the older one, the one that survived by panicking early, and it's still in charge, quietly. Your first financial instinct isn't greed, it's flinching. Loss doesn't feel like minus. Loss feels like injury. A number goes down, and your body reacts like something just crawled into the room. For most of human history, losing resources didn't mean smaller returns. It meant winter. It meant empty hands. It meant watching people you love get thin. So the brain evolved a rule. Avoid loss at all costs. Not optimize, not rebalance. Avoid. This is why people sell at the worst moment, not because they're stupid, but because their biology reads a red chart like teeth. It's why cash feels safe, even when it's quietly dissolving, because the brain trusts what it can hold. And you will call it strategy. You will call it prudence. You will say you saw it coming. But what really happened is simpler. You mistook discomfort for danger. And if that were the only sabotage, it would be manageable. But your brain doesn't just fear loss. It fears being alone while losing. That's where it turns social, and that's where it turns ugly. You think you're independent until money gets involved. When uncertainty rises, something inside you scans for a crowd, not information, a crowd. Because your brain doesn't ask what is true. It asks who's still alive. In the wild, isolated humans didn't become contrarian, they became missing. So the mind learned a shortcut. If others are doing it, it's probably safe. Not correct. Not optimal. Safe. This is why bubbles don't feel like mania from the inside. They feel like belonging. Everyone buying isn't just a signal, it's a sedative. You don't want returns. You want to stop feeling like the only person who might be wrong. And the humiliating part, you'll tell yourself you're early, but you weren't early. You were late, just not late enough to feel ashamed yet. Because shame is the next mechanism, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that makes you do reckless things just to look calm. At some point, you stopped investing and started auditioning. Your ego doesn't want profit. It wants authorship. It wants to believe, I caused the win, not I participated, not I benefited, I caused it. A creature that thinks it has control tries again. A creature that feels powerless freezes. So the brain manufactures control the way it manufactures dreams, not to be accurate, but to keep you moving. This is where the overtrading starts, the constant checking, the obsessive tweaking. You call it being engaged, but it's really self-soothing through micro-decisions. And when you win, your brain writes a myth of competence. When you lose, it blames timing, news, market manipulation, bad luck. Not because you're dishonest, because your ego is a public relations department, and the client is fragile. The portfolio becomes a mirror, and you don't want to see randomness staring back, so you start fighting reality like it's an argument you can win. But the darkest sabotage isn't the trades you make, it's the self you build around them. Because once money becomes identity, you can't exit without losing more than money. You don't hold assets, you hold stories. The human brain is a meaning machine. It can tolerate pain, it can tolerate uncertainty, but it cannot tolerate chaos without a plot, so it creates one. Stories made tribes coherent. A shared narrative was coordination. Coordination was survival. So your brain rewards narrative like it rewards food, with relief. This is how you become a crypto person, a value investor, a contrarian, a builder. And once you adopt the label, your decisions stop being financial. They become loyalty tests. You don't buy because it's good. You buy because it matches the character you're trying to be. You don't sell because it's bad. You don't sell because selling would mean admitting the story was false and the protagonist was you. This is where people stay in collapsing positions longer than they stay in collapsing relationships, because a bad trade hurts, but an incorrect identity feels like ego death, and the brain would rather lose money slowly than lose itself quickly. So here's the final question, the one most people avoid because it doesn't sound like finance. What if the market isn't where you try to grow wealth, but where you go to regulate your emotions? By the time you call it investing, your brain has already made the real decision, not about risk, about relief. That relief comes from dopamine, a tiny neurological paycheck paid out for anticipation, not results. The chart moves and your body interprets it as meaning, as progress, as danger, as validation, as punishment. And slowly, without announcing itself, money stops being a tool. It becomes a therapist you can refresh. The unsettling truth is not that markets are irrational. It's that you are consistent in the way a survival machine is consistent. The human brain is a meaning machine. It can tolerate pain. It can tolerate uncertainty, but it cannot tolerate chaos without a plot. So it creates one. And next time, when you feel certain, watch closely. Certainty is usually the brain's way of hiding fear. Because the real enemy of your future isn't inflation, or the Fed, or the market. It's the part of you that needs to feel safe right now, and it will spend your life to buy that feeling.